What comes to mind when you think about the state of Montana? Cowboys, scruffy beards, blue skies, bison, boots, and beer? That would be the stereotype anyway. Some might even call our treasure state Mantana. Montana State University. Do you think education, innovation, research, creativity, books, bobcats, and more beards? Montana State University is a mid-sized land-grant research institution serving a rural state. And like so many other universities and colleges across the country, Montana State University knows it can do better to recruit, retain, and meet the needs of diverse people. And we are doing better. With funding from the National Science Foundation, Montana, Big Sky Country, Mantana, is transforming itself.
There's an inherent need to feel like you are successful because of your inner qualities, not despite them. The playing field is not equal. It's nobody's fault, but it is our fault if we close our eyes to it.
You can't be gender blind when your goal is to diversify your faculty in terms of gender. But also, if gender is a stigmatized word, then that already tells us that there's still a problem. So there were some conversations of kind of getting everyone on the same page. These differences are beneficial. They create better science. They create happier communities. They're good for our students. Difference isn't something we should deny. It's something we should embrace and then figure out how to cultivate in a meaningful way.
The purpose of Advanced Project TRACS is to broaden the participation of women faculty in the male-dominated fields of STEM and social behavioral sciences. We set out to do this with 3 initiatives: enhancing research capacity and opportunity, enhancing work-life integration, and enhancing cultural attunement. Our overall goal is to create a campus that's inclusive and equitable in a way that welcomes and values all people from all walks of life. We use a highly innovative approach to the design, implementation, and to the testing of all of the elements of Advanced Project TRACS using self-determination theory. Self-determination theory is a classic motivational theory by DC and Ryan that identifies 3 fundamental psychological needs: the need for autonomy, the need for relatedness, and the need for competence. We use these 3 psychological needs to inform everything we do with Advance.
For a long time, we had issues with diversity. A bunch of white guys is what we ended up being. Every time we did a search, we wound up hiring another white guy. White lab coat, glasses, bad hair. I started getting kind of frustrated with that after a while. What were we doing wrong? Just because somebody doesn't look like a scientist doesn't mean that they can't be a scientist. Once we realized that we were doing that, we were able to counteract it actively and say, no, I'm not going to make that mistake again. And that's been huge in getting people transferring that to the rest of the university subsequently.
TRACS is more than just an acronym for empirically investigating transformation through relatedness, autonomy, and competence support. It's also a metaphor for a runner's track. Picture this. A runner's track starting line looks fair until you pull away and realize this isn't the 50-yard dash, but a long run along an oval track. Those on the inside lane have less distance to run. This is why in the long game, the starts are staggered. It is not a special favor to those on the outside lane, but instead a necessary adjustment to even the distance. So TRACS is a metaphor for the fact that women often have to run harder, work harder, jump more hurdles, and do better to compete at the same level as men in traditionally male-dominated STEM and social behavioral science fields.
We were fortunate to get our institutional transformation grant on the first try, and I think that was because we were well positioned to take advantage of the money and really implement these programs quickly.
The strong presence of a team of social science researchers at Montana State University was critical to funding of that proposal. They had interesting and relevant hypotheses that could be tested.
We also had a major change right before we submitted the grant.
If you would have told me 20 years ago that I was going to end up being a university president in Montana, I would have looked at you with very puzzled eyes. When I arrived at Montana State University in 2010, We had several departments that had never had a female faculty member.
Our organization had a sincere desire to gender diversify the faculty, but the way in which we were searching was what I now classify as lather, rinse, and repeat. We basically were using all of the techniques that we used that hired all of the white and Asian men into the department, and we continued to attract large numbers of white and Asian men to apply. And I would characterize this, looking back in hindsight, as you don't know what you don't know until you know it, and then it is so obvious. And the Advanced Project TRACS helped us with all of these best practices. So we not only got over the hurdle of hiring sort of the first woman into the faculty, but we immediately got to it. It was a cluster hire, and that is so much more effective for long-term retention and functioning of the organization.
Both the parties have to play a role for being a female in a field like this. You have to be aware of it, but not being discouraged by it from the male side. Yes, they should try to be in our shoes and see what would you feel if there's a bunch of women around you, sitting around you and talking all the time without giving you an opportunity to give you ideas.
I think it's a really important issue, and I do know that there's a lot of issues that we face as women in this male-dominated field, which when you look at the situation, you just step back and you think this is just not okay. Compared to the organizations I've been at before, it does seem that Montana State has a stronger connection between the women faculty, and I think that Advance is a part of that.
Both Dr. Fazy and Dr. Kanawala began their employment at Montana State University this past fall semester. And within 1 month of their arrival, both of them had received funding. None of our prior faculty, all men, were ever able to procure funding quite this quickly. I think that the culture is becoming a little bit more maybe human-centric, friendlier, which actually makes everyone feel better about being in the environment and helps everyone to be more productive.
Actually, even though I'm one of the 2 women in the computer science department, I feel really comfortable with my male allies, I would say. It's been really good experience.
During our 4 years of Advanced Project TRACS so far, we've hired 36 tenure-track women faculty in STEM. That's exactly 50% of all our 72 tenure-track STEM hires. Part of the Cultural Attunement Initiative involved the team using self-determination theory to develop an evidence-based toolkit and webinar to help guide departments through their faculty searches. Using demographic data, departments can see how they measure up diversity-wise to national trends, and hopefully be inspired to meet or even exceed those trends. A good example of cultural transformation achieved by Advance is partner accommodations.
Turns out that a lot of faculty are married to other faculty. So if you have someone and you invite them to join your faculty, there's a decent chance that they're going to have a spouse who's also going to need some accommodations, and they come as a pair. And MSU in recent years has been very receptive to trying to make that work. That spousal hire is typically at least as productive as the average person in that department, if not more so. So it's not that you're just kind of taking a spouse, you're actually benefiting, you're getting another excellent faculty member, if not a superstar.
We're able to get some people that we wouldn't have been able to get otherwise if we were just going to hire one of them.
Yep.
There is much more to transformation than just recruiting new women to campus. We also need to support them once they are here. Using self-determination theory, we designed a grant writing boot camp that was facilitated by our grant submission training coordinator as part of our efforts to enhance the research capacity of our women faculty in STEM.
Boot camp is a 6-week workshop where faculty from different schools get together once a week for 2 hours to talk about the process of writing grants, starting with finding a grant that fits your research program to how do you put all the pieces and parts together and actually get it off to the organization that will evaluate the proposal. When we looked at women in STEM, we saw that there was an increase in the number of proposals that they were able to submit after boot camp, as well as the number of proposals that they were successful on.
Hearing people talk who has a lot of experience in grant writing and getting their first-hand sort of experience and their perspectives helped me a lot.
Yet another achievement of Advanced Project TRACS is the establishment of the Women in Science Distinguished Professor Award, which is sponsored by the generous contributions of several esteemed MSU alumni.
It helps sustain and elevate a person who is doing extraordinary science and engineering and mathematical work, who is also paying it back and helping to mentor through and serve as a role model to the up-and-coming generation of women in STEM. So our very first winner was Joan Broderick from chemistry.
It's made me aware. It's made me aware because I've had to think hard about what these issues are, what are they currently, because it's changed a lot since 50 years ago. It's not necessarily the overt discrimination and bias against women, but it's still absolutely there. And now that I've kind of opened my eyes more, I see it. I think raising the awareness of people on campus is really the only way that you're going to move forward with changing how things are, changing attitudes and changing outcomes, and increasing, the representation of women in science.
What we hope is happening is we're creating a sustainable model to keep celebrating people like her who are inspiring new people to be like her. Our brand new award winner right now is Sarah Codd from Mechanical Engineering, and we couldn't be more proud to see the handing off from Joan to Sarah, because it's a very tangible thing that Advance has done that we think will stick around for years to come.
We cannot change the culture for women in STEM while ignoring the rest of the university community. Even among those programs that have equal numbers of men and women, or are even female-dominated, inclusion and diversity efforts are essential. From art and architecture in the College of Business to nursing in the College of Education, Human Health and Development, we have tried to broaden the reach of Advance. Space is a great indicator of commitment, and when a family care room was included in the newly constructed Jabs Hall for the College of Business, we can see the tangible effects of the change narrative on campus. We went from 1 family care room at the start of Advance to 4, with more on the way. What is the legacy of Advanced Project TRACS? We are taking our diversity science data, findings, and lessons learned and disseminating them nationally. Our research is presented at national conferences, in public addresses, and importantly published in top-tier peer-reviewed journals such as Science, PNAS, and Bioscience, outlets that reach the very people in STEM who we hope can make a difference in their own communities while providing fruitful contributions to the literature. We have started this now ongoing dialogue about the value of diversity and inclusion, the need for cultural transformation within academia, and the needed research agenda on diversity science. While necessarily focusing the transformation first on a binary understanding of gender, we hope our legacy will be in not stopping here, inspiring efforts that consider gender at the intersection of other important identities, gender expression, ethnicity, sexuality, ability, and other forms of diversity and lived experiences that can contribute to a thriving and even greater faculty and student body at Montana State University.
We know it works, we've tested it, and we have those impacts. We know it doesn't work. We tested it, we need to abandon it. And now we're in this very delicate place of trying to sustain the good things that are working, and that means resources, that means people, that means time, and that's not always easy.
I think anyone who's in higher education today and isn't concerned about the financial landscape, it has their head in the sand. So yes, I'm always concerned that without the money flowing in from NSF, some of these programs will wither on the vine. I believe right now, and speaking to you today, that we will be fine financially because we have a lot of support. Ask me in a couple years, we'll see.
Well, now that the grant is about to expire, where do we go from here? And I think that the answer is clear. We need to keep forging on. We cannot afford to go back.
As much as possible, we need to continue to make sure this is deeply woven into the fabric of this university culturally, in terms of policy and in terms of dedicated dollars that are not kind of a one-time expenditure, but a long-term commitment.
I think one of the benefits of the Advance grant is it shows us how successful we can be and the grant is just a beginning. Even though the grant may end, our efforts won't end.
I feel like the grant has been really successful. However, one few year period I don't think is enough to really change an institution and to truly transform that institution's culture.
What I would like is for us to continue to challenge the assumptions about Montana State and about the state of Montana. People have like this double take kind of effect, like, really? Montana State? I did not know. So I want to make sure that we continue to move ahead so that in the future, it's not a double take.
The fact that we can make inroads here, where when I talk to people and they think I ride my horse to work and my cowboy hat to class, that we can absolutely inspire transformation at other universities with the lessons learned here at Montana State. You know, one person says, you just bury your head, you're an ostrich. Put your head down, get your work done, work. Yes, you're gonna have to work harder and longer and more than everybody else, but that's how you're gonna be successful. I think you should be a giraffe. I say stick your neck out, and if it gets chopped off, so be it. And we're giraffes.
Right.